That's cool.
So I went to someone's house the other day. They family invited myself, my wife, and my 3 kids over to their house. We went over there for Sunday morning breakfast, and like you don't go to anyone's house empty-handed. So I had a bag of the Good Dude's coffee because I got those like 6-packs or whatever.
Yeah.
So I took one of the bags over there and I gave it to the guy, and I told this story before about Verve, right? About Verve coffee, about how I drank Verve and it was so weak. So I take so he's got Verve on his counter, and I give him the bag of coffee, and he goes, "Hey, would you like a cup of coffee?" And I said, "Sure." And he makes a pour over, and I'm assuming it's the Verve, right? Because that's what he had opened already, and that's like the super trendy good coffee in Santa Cruz. So I drink the cup of coffee, and it's so fucking black, and it's so fucking strong. And after about like 30 minutes, I'm like buzzing. Like there's a TV on somewhere that's just like, and I'm like, fuck, dude. I'm like, that was really, really strong coffee. And he goes, "Oh, I ground up the stuff you brought." And I was like, oh shit,
party time.
But it was a pour over, and I was wondering. My question to you guys is, what makes a cup of coffee strong? But anyway, so the next day he comes to jiu-jitsu with his kids, and he goes, "I am so sorry." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because I made a cup of that coffee this morning that you brought, and like it was like drinking like 3 cups at once." He's like, "That was nuts."
Yeah, but
and I'm like, why is Good Dude so strong compared to Verve?
Well, so if he just dumped that bag into the grinder and just ground it up with the same as the other, like different beans need different grinds. Like there is some discrepancy there. So like I've had it here where like I was using one bean to make pour over and then switched beans, but kept the grind the same. And then it was like, it just took like 10 minutes for the water to drain out of the filter. And it's because different beans need different grinds. Like if you're working off time,
roast levels are typically going to dictate your grind size. So lighter the roast, you're going to want to go a little bit finer, darker.
So you could make that Verve coffee as strong as the Good Dude's coffee if you just ground it different?
No, I don't think so. I think that could also be the roast of the coffee itself, right? So the darker the roast, the less caffeine the coffee's going to have. The lighter the roast, the more caffeine. So you actually roast caffeine.
Well, this was the Samson. Isn't that your darkest stuff?
Yeah, that's the darkest stuff. Yeah, that's our very much like very heavily dark roast, caramelized, smoky, has that very old-fashioned coffee taste, right? Like flavor, like it tastes like coffee from like a gas station. But people like that, man. They love that fucking flavor.
That's a little harsh. It didn't taste like it was from a gas station.
But you know what I mean?
Like there's that stereotypical coffee flavor.
How I like to describe it is like if you like your coffee to taste like coffee, because that's an old school mentality, right? Like that's what I like to say the Samson tastes like. If you want your coffee to taste like coffee, you get a really dark roast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it should be less caffeine.
It's going to be less caffeine, yeah, for sure.
Oh. And then the second thing I wanted to tell you guys, I wanted to brag to you guys about. So I had on the Sevan podcast, I had the Monkey King on. He's a UFC fighter. He's 8-1. And it was my first UFC fighter that I had on the podcast. And while I was talking to him, I said, "Hey, who's your agent?" And he said, "Oh, it's Iridium Sports Agency." And I said, "Oh, cool." I said, "Do they have a lot of athletes?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think they might have more. They might represent more MMA athletes than any other sport agency in the world." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I looked up Iridium, and I saw their CEO was Jason House. So I reached out to him, and we got him he's coming on the Sevan podcast.
Oh, dope!
Nice.
And so then I've been researching him, and in these interviews he does, he always talks about who the next big upcoming fighters are, and he mentioned a guy named Mo Miller, who I actually hadn't heard of. So I reached out to him and got him on the podcast. So I'm kind of like...
Sevan, how many times have you plugged your other podcast on this one? You letting all our listeners know, like, hey, if you want to listen to Mo Miller, if you want to listen to the biggest MMA agent, if you want to listen to 8-1 record.
Listen, we're already 2 minutes past quitting time, so no one's even going to make it to the end. But I'm just sharing with you guys, like, I am fucking stoked because this is a space... I'm so into fighting. You guys know I fucking text you guys every Saturday night, and I'm like, let's do it.
What?
And
you have never watched a UFC fight.
Anyway, I'm ecstatic.
I'm gonna go drink some Good Dude's coffee and take some extreme endurance protein and wear my JB shorts and hold on, what else? I'm just fucking with you, man.
When is Podium coming out, Matt? When is Podium coming out?
I'm looking for. I know I have a pair of Metcon Sevan, Matt Fraser's laying around.
Let me see them.
Where are they?
Oh, that's so funny you say that too. Someone texted me today. Actually, Ryan texted me, Jevney, the guy who runs our subclip station.
Okay.
And he said to me, he goes, I don't know where he's going. He just texted me this morning. He goes, hey, when the new Matt Fraser Metcons come out, do you want me to get you a pair? And I'm like, well, that's nice of him. What are there? Do you have new shoes coming out?
They came out today.
Yeah.
Oh, they
man.
did?
Yeah.
Well, shit.
Yeah, they're dope.
Yeah,
But
I haven't even. I'm supposedly a Nike athlete. I don't even have a fucking pair. What the fuck? Man?
Are they good for wide feet? I have wide feet.
yeah, the toe box is wider.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, maybe I will buy a pair. No wonder he said that to me.
Are we ending this thing?